spirits meet. And today I'm in the Black Forest in Baden-Württemberg, Germany, and I'm at the Rothaus Brewery. But the Rothaus Brewery actually has a Rothaus whiskey as well. And yeah, a little bit of background about this brewery. We are here at a very big junction. Today it's not that big of a junction anymore, but back in the days it was the junction between Freiburg, Karlsruhe, Basel and Stuttgart, which were important cities. Still important cities, but the junction is not that important anymore because the Autobahn from different sides. But here there was really a junction where horses were changed, and there was a tavern. And in 1791 they actually decided to build a brewery here to meet the demands of the region of the beer and also this tavern here. And it was done by monks, by the Benedict monks of the Holy Benedict, the order of the Benedicts. That's the way. And they actually built it here. And I think one of the top monks, he said, yeah, he wants to get rid of all the illegal distilling and brewing around here and wants to have the people drink something proper around here. That was also a reason why they do that. And they built it, they brewed the beer, and in 15 years later there was Napoleon Bonaparte who invaded Germany, and he actually secularized the German states. So all the business from the church actually got into the hands of the state. So the monks had to give it to the state, and now it was a state brewery of the Great Duke of Baden. So it was inside the kind of monarchy, I would say. And yeah, over the years they got burned down, they rebuilt, they got extensions, they got bigger, and nowadays they are really big modern brewery, the biggest one in capacity of Baden-Württemberg. Now it is still in the hands of the state, but it's the state of Baden-Württemberg within the Federal Republic of Germany. And so they were leading in terms of what they did was they actually got into beer bottling first. Back in the days it was all done by casks, but they got into bottling first, and they are a very iconic beer with small beer bottles. With it was in the 50s they got into 0.33 liter bottles, the small ones. And this is a trend that other distilleries followed, but they were amongst the first in the 50s. Everybody was drinking beer from 0.7 liter bottles, later 0.5 liter bottles, so pint bottles. And yeah, so that was it with all the beer. And in 2005, they actually decided they wanted to do their own whiskey. And the whiskey was created in 2005. Of course, it took 3 years to come out. And they actually do have a cooperation partner, which we're gonna meet later. And yeah, so let's get in and find out how the whiskey is gonna make. You can see here I'm in the mash room, and we are a beer brewery here, or the Rothaus Distillery is a beer brewery, and that means they have a lot more focus on the mashing. And yeah, so mashing usually in the distillery in Scotland is just put in the grist, put in the water, mash it around, take out a bit of the loose bits, and that's it. Or heating. Yeah, but here every step is carefully thought after, because that is very important to brew a beer that is not distilled. We start off with 2 mash tuns, which really just do the mashing. In Scotland we have a combined mash and lauter tun. So here we just have the mashing, which is the mixing of the grist and the water. The water, by the way, very important, comes from 7 water sources, very soft water, very low mineral content, which is important for whiskey distilling, also for beer brewing. Otherwise it makes it bitter and a lot of unwanted flavors. The grist is about 90 tons of malted barley, no peat, nothing roasted or anything. So this is then mashed together in the mash tun. And they do heating at a few steps to get the starch split up into sugars, because the sugars are what the yeast later really needs to grow. So at these steps, the starch is split into the sugars, and we then have a very, very sweet mash. But this mash is really with also solids in it. So what you then do is the lautering goes into the lautering tun, or here it's called Läuterbottich, and that has a lot of sieves, and these sieve out the water, the liquid part, from the solid bits, and you really want to get out all the solid bits. So they really are focused on a very, very clear wort. This is what you want for a beer. You don't want to have any bits in your beer. If you drink the beer and there are bits in it, it's not good beer, basically. But I guess everybody knows that. So next step is then the Würzepfanne, which is a heating step. This is usually for beer brewing, where you sterilize your beer or your mash, your clear mash, and you don't want to have any bacteria in there, so you really heat it up till it's cooking, and then you add the hops. The hops is also sterilizer, so this was back in the days you couldn't do anything without the hops, so it sterilizes it. This was really a medicinal content for it. And in the whiskey making process, you're not allowed to add any hops, otherwise you would have a beer distillate. In the EU law, you'd be a beer distillate. We want whiskey, so no hops added, but it is heated, no bacteria in there. So no lactobacteria in there, and that is later important in the fermentation. And the last step is then also a beer brewing process. It's called the whirlpool. Yes, it's really called the whirlpool. And the whirlpool is a last step to even remove the last bits of solids in there. I can't stress this enough, if you have bits in your beer, it's not a good beer. So you really have to take care of the solid bits. And for the whiskey, it's not really important because it's gonna get distilled anyway. So but they still do it because they want to have the same process for the beer as for the whiskey, except for the hops, of course. This is then a very, very sweet, very clear wort that goes off into the fermentation. The fermentation is done on a huge scale because, they are a beer brewery. And we have 21 fermentation tanks with 170,000 liters of volume, so huge, big, I think 17 meters high, 3.5 diameter, so very, very, very much. And the thing is, they are really different to what we know of a Scotch or even a bourbon, because they are a beer brewing process. They do have active cooling. It's not even water, it's something else. And they cool it down to 12 degrees Celsius. So really, really, really cold. Then they have their own beer yeast, which is a different yeast. It's not as potent as a distiller's yeast or a wine yeast. So they are looking at a little bit less alcohol, which is, the yeast is for beer brewing, which is at lower sugars and lower alcoholic strengths, therefore then. So yes, this is a bit different, but they want to keep it. They want to have the same process for their beer as they want to have for their beer for whiskey, their wort. And what they then do is they have no lactobacteria in there. It's sterile, no bacteria in there. It's just the yeast that is growing. Just the yeast is what's living inside these vessels, and they ferment for 2 weeks, which is for, Scottish standards, just way, way, way too long. I know people who go a week or a little bit over a week, and this is 2 weeks. So very, very slow, and therefore there are different flavors growing. I tried the new make, and they say, it's a vanilla touch to it. I had it as, it had the pears, it had the green apple, and for me it was sweeter and a little bit more creamy. For me, I had it as tangerine, but they say vanilla, and I tried it at 68 degrees, 68% alcohol, so it might be as well vanilla. So it has a bit more creamy, a bit more sweet touch to it, or this wort that is coming out here. And they fill it up to 52,000 liters, and then it goes into 2 tankers that then drive off to a distillery in Karlsruhe. And let's go there and have a look at distillation. first step in the distillation here at the Kammer-Kirsch distillery is obviously the wash stills. The ready-made wash comes in from Rothaus, is stayed in special tanks that are currently under renovation, and then they get into these stills. These stills are, let's say, newer. They're not the old historical ones, because you can see at the bottom there is kind of a fireplace there, and now they're running on steam. They've actually renovated their steam engine as well to get a more efficient steam engine that just produces on demand, as in contrast to the old one that just constantly was producing, and that was a bit inefficient. So the Kammer-Kirsch distillery is really going for more modern equipment, more efficiency, as the modern times requires to be more energy conservation. With more energy conservation. Let's talk about the stills. They have about 600 to 700 liters of volume, and they're distilling quite quickly, and they're producing the intermediate spirit, and it goes into the intermediate tank. That is a little bit more historic, and we can even see from a German, the Eichamt, which is the bureau of measurement and precision. So they actually have to have the container, the measurement equipment checked if the measurement dials are ready, and there is an old paper saying everything is all right with the measurements here from the 1950s. So a little bit of history going on here in the building. And after the first step of distillation, it goes off into the next step. The next step is the fine distillation. And that is done here in this closed up section. And that's why it's actually called a Verschlussbrennerei, because Verschluss means closed up, and everything is closed up. There are locks and there are seals, and they can only be opened by the German tax man. And you can actually, the lock is really big. You probably can't open it without heavy equipment anyways. Everything that goes in here and goes to the outside is actually measured. So the big spirit tank actually runs through a measurement device that actually takes little samples as well to see how much alcohol is in there. And in that sample tank, everything is taxed, so you're allowed to access it again. Everything that happens in here is untaxed. You cannot access. Even the taking of a sample from A and B, you can press the button, you get 2 cl of alcohol from the still, and you can smell it, you can check if everything is all right, but there is a measurement device that checks, okay, you have taken out 2 cl of alcohol, and you have to pay your taxes for that. But just to put it in perspective, for, let's say, about 3/4 of a year, we are not even at a liter, a bit less than a quart of alcohol taken out of the still, and that would cost you around 13 euros, and that is like $14, so not that expensive to take samples, and except for the equipment. So what we do have here is something very special, because the distillery does not just go by the alcohol level. Usually you have your first cut at around, I don't know, 80, 82, somewhere around there. But here the alcohol is just a rough estimate. And with that rough estimate, you actually take a sample and then you check how it smells and how it tastes. And with that smell and taste, they do their cuts. So all the cuts are done on a sensory level, not just on the papers with numbers. So really handmade, I would say. Next up, let's talk about the sizes. We have 2 spirit stills with 600 liters and a rectifier. So what they do is they do really a kind of a fine distillate. So it's really distilled fine and a light distillate, I would say. After everything has run through, let's call it the tax machine, it ends up in the spirit tank, and then it's ready for going into the cask. The Rothaus whiskey is actually maturing in a cellar, and it is actually an old beer cellar. They called it an ice cellar. Actually, before it was a distillery, it actually was a brewery for beer, and you had to have these ice cellars where we didn't have any refrigeration, that wasn't invented yet. So you take ice in the winter from a lake, you cut it off in big blocks and put it into the ice cellar that cools it down. So the whole ice cellar was cold to store the beer. And what you then have to have for this ice cellar is very good insulation. So this is what is affecting the whiskey today, because the insulation is still there. So this ice cellar, you can see I'm here in a t-shirt, is in winter. Outside it's very low temperatures, and in here the ice cellar is still, I would say, normal. And so they don't go below 14, 15, they go around about 16 degrees. That's what they say here, around about 16 degrees in winter. And in summer it doesn't get too hot, so it's very pleasant to work in here. If it's really hot outside, you can work in here and you don't sweat that much. And so the whiskey that is maturing here doesn't have a lot of temperature differences between winter and summer, and that means you have a slower maturation. You don't have that additive maturation where you have the cask becoming warmer and breathing a lot and interacting too much with the spirit. They have interaction with the spirit, of course, but it's not that fast, so it's a slower maturation. So the Rothaus whiskey is one of the whiskeys that is more slowly matured. In terms of what we have here is we have a lot of bourbon casks, we have ex-Highland casks, and we do also have a lot of wine casks. They have good connections with wineries in Germany. Here and there I've seen a few big sherry casks on one bunch and a few smaller ones. So you see there are a lot of different casks around here, and that's what the Rothaus is actually a bit famous for. They do have more than usual limited editions for all the special casks they do here. And let me tell you a little bit about the history here, because I've said, okay, this was a brewery. In at the beginning of the 19th century, they actually made this brewery into an experimental and a teaching distillery. That was from the Baden, that was a dukedom of Baden, and they actually said, okay, we need that to promote the local spirits, and that is why they built it here, and people were teaching here how to distill. And later it got bought or got privatized to the Kammer-Kirsch Distillery, and they were an AG, which is on stocks, based on stocks, a stocks exchange company, and they changed to a limited company in the 60s. So it's now still Kammer-Kirsch Distillery. So this is about the history of that place. But this year the cellar is probably one of the oldest parts of the distillery, and very suitable for maturing the whiskey. After it has matured here enough time, then it's filled into the bottle, and let's have some of that right now. So this was it with the production, and now we're having a little tasting and an interview with Daniel Weiss. You're the representative distillery manager.
Yes, hello.
And you're at Kammer-Kirsch for 3.5 years in this position, or in the Kammer-Kirsch distillery, and more important, 10 to 12 years as a whiskey connoisseur and whiskey lover.
Yes.
So thank you very much for having us here and showing us all around.
You're welcome.
It was a beautiful place and a historic place for the dukedom of Baden. So now we're trying your whiskies. Can you tell us a little bit what kind of collection are we trying today?
Yeah, we're trying the normal standard whiskey. Mm-hmm. It's the 13 edition, and it's always on 43%.
Okay, so this is drinking strength.
This is drinking strength. Mm-hmm. The rest are cask strength. Mm-hmm. We have the rum cask. It's aged 4 years in Jamaican rum cask, and we have a Chardonnay cask finish. It's it was 1 year in ex-bourbon cask, and then for over 7 years in Chardonnay German white wine cask. Mm-hmm. And at least We have the Banyuls cask. It's aged 8 years, whole in Banyuls cask.
So these, you can see them here as Sonderedition.
It's our special edition.
Special edition. But
Very limited for over.
Okay,
around.
so we're in front of us. We have drinking and 3 cask strength with very special casks. So
Yes.
I'm quite excited. So yeah, let's start off with the 13th edition. So this is a 22 from 22, that edition.
Yes.
Okay, and just bourbon casks?
Mostly, but not only. A little. Yes.
Wine casks, I think it was, right?
Yes, there was some red wine casks, German red wine casks.
But it's not finished, but as a cuvée or
As
a
a
mixture.
Cuvée, yes, as a composition.
Okay. So these editions, do they differ a lot? If some of our viewers might now get a 14th edition or 10th edition or something, do they differ a lot?
Not so. We're trying to do the same character in the whiskey, but every edition has to be their own, something like their own stamp.
Okay, so minor differences, the general character is the same, but you have some specialties in it.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that is. Okay. We had already a German one, so it's a bit a bit different to have all the others already tasted.
The first whiskey.
Second first whiskey. But I like it. You really have a lot of the cask in there, and when you smell a little bit deeper into it, you feel the distillery character. I had the pleasure of trying the new make, and I can feel it in there as well. But it's not quite sure if it's the wine cask, but it has a good amount of oak influence in it. That's just a smidge of, I would say, European oak. And I don't know if the wine cask is European oak, but it feels like it. Yeah, so cheers.
Slanty.
Second sip is extremely creamy and wholesome, and just bourbon cask flavor, vanilla, caramel, sweetness, cream, very round. It was that with the first try as well, but now that I had the special editions, you really feel how easy the first one is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should be.
Okay, so what was very interesting was the whole topic about the Verschlussbrennerei, the sealed off areas. So what do you do when you have like maintenance or cleaning, or you want to get into the still? Is that a big problem?
Not a big problem. We have to call the taxman because they have the keys for the rooms, for the closed rooms, and they only have the keys for the rooms. And yeah, when I call the taxman, he says, about give me 2 days, and then I come.
Okay, 2 days. That is really
about
quick, I would say.
Yeah, if there's a problem, he can also can come immediately.
Okay, if you have like a breakdown and you need to get into and fix some stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not very often.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the equipment looks very new and looks very good. So guess you don't have that much problems. Like with an, 140 years old still. Yeah. So now we're getting into the Sonderedition. The first one was rum casks.
Rum casks, yes. Over 4 years.
Okay.
Only in rum casks, which was used before for Jamaican rum.
Jamaican rum. Okay, the Jamaican rum is usually known for their spicy and high Easter rums. I mean, I know we have some rum aficionados out there as well. So the Jamaican rum is quite hefty. I had some of their Jamaican rum, but I've never been to Jamaica yet.
Me too. It's in cask strength, about 55.8%.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's nice. In the first smell, I did have a bit of that high Easter spiciness. Now it's more, it feels a little bit more green, sugary, sugar cane. Yeah, sweetness of the sugar cane, raw, brown sugar. Yeah, that feels like a fresh one. Strangely enough, I don't have that spiciness anymore. Cheers. Wholesome, warm, and sweet. Yeah, sweet one with rum. Do you color the whiskey?
No,
No.
we don't use any coloring at any of our whiskies.
That is nice to talk about that, because you can see that even with the later ones, you can even see the bottles. That yes, a 4-year-old is a lighter whiskey, and if you have let's say a non-American whiskey, that is should a 4-year whiskey should look like. And there are tons of whiskeys out there who do coloring. So big honor to you that you don't color the whiskey and just come out with a lighter one. Unfortunately, most of the beginners, I would say, or non-whiskey aficionated people,
yeah, maybe
don't know that.
But it's never a problem to explain that the people.
Yeah, I know that. I don't think your whiskey is a supermarket whiskey. Your whiskey is a premium whiskey. In the supermarket, there is no explaining.
Yes.
And
it's every time you the color is very very important for the buyer.
Yeah, but if you are on let's say a website like Whisky.com, there's always no coloring there, and I think you have a little sign. You can filter for no coloring in our filters. So, and we do have the videos like this. So yeah, there is explaining. Oh, that made it even fresher and even sweeter. Oh, a smidge of that Jamaican one that you had with the first try. Oh yeah, it does have a bit of that rum spiciness in there. But I think it's a good one. Rums are always associated with the spiced rums, and like this one is a natural rum flavor, so that you would not get from a supermarket rum, but from an equivalent standard of of quality. What I also did like about the distillery is you've seen the old ovens where you had the old stills, and we've had a look around the building. There's like there were old windows which are now bricked up, and old brick building, and this building also looks very historic. Does it belong to the distillery at some point, or?
I don't know if it's belonged to the distillery, but it's was built by the Duke of Baden.
Okay.
I think, and yeah, it's until today this room is the only one which is not broke up and built again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it really looks a bit monarchical. So yeah, I think back in the days when it was built, the official state was still under monarchy. It was a dukedom of Baden.
Yes, and this is called a Palais.
Palais, okay.
Yeah, das Seldenecksche Palais.
Okay.
Seldeneck is the name of, I don't know, a family which has the brewery.
Ah, okay. Yeah, the whole city, we're in Karlsruhe here, is a very old city, also very technology city. Even back in the days it was very technological, and it was all around, I think, the seat of the Duke or something.
Yes.
Yeah, so very historic, unfortunately. Not very historic in the whiskey sense, but more of a general historic one. So the next one is the Chardonnay.
Chardonnay cask finish. As I said before, it was aged 1 year in ex-bourbon casks, and then for over 7 years only in Chardonnay.
Ah, okay.
German white wine.
Is that common for you to like refill the cask in the Sonderedition or in the special editions?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
So it's some whiskies we do as a finish and some as not finishing, just staying in one cask.
A lot darker. So
Yes.
that is pleasant to talk about it.
And a little bit more strange. It's over 57% strange.
In the first take, I did the mistake of diluting it down, but afterwards I regret it.
So cheers.
Cheers. Nice. These are good casks. It's velvety. Pardon if you, I hope you're not getting offended by that, but it has a bit of that sense of an old velvet drape, of an old building. It just feels a little bit like a well situated castle room. But it has a lot of fruitiness, a lot of dark fruitiness, a bit of dark chocolate in there. Very velvety, maybe a bit of a rose touch to it. Yeah, I like it. But now that I've tried it neat, it's even a bit more oaky, more dark in these notes. I like it. Yeah, that opens it up a lot. So this is really responsive to water. It still has that oaky touch to it and a bit of these dark notes, but you do have a lot of berries now in it, and the grapes are not as mushed grapes or old grapes, but more fresh grapes or broken grapes. Really has a lot of wine notes in it.
Yeah.
But you said it's actually it looks a bit red, but it's a white wine.
It's a white wine. It's a German white wine.
Oh, it's strange.
Yeah, the color comes from the wood.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And it's about the notes. It's sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to work with white wine casks than with red wine casks. So it's you have to check up the time. So there's one point you say that now it's good at white wine casks, and this point it comes very earlier with red wine casks.
A bit earlier, yeah, 8 years, but I think it's a good age for that one.
Yeah.
You can barely get the distillery character with the 4 years and the rum. I do say I can feel a little bit with the normal edition. Yeah, you can feel the distillery character, but in here the cask is strong. But when you know what you're looking for, because I have the new make, then you can make it out. But if you don't, then probably just the nuance in the background. I like it. So I started off at the Rothaus brewery and came to the Kammer-Kirsch Distillery. So you're actually two different companies. So how did that cooperation or that joint venture, and how long does it already go?
In 2006, Rothaus Brewery wanted to have a whiskey made of their beer. But it's not actually the beer, it's something else. You explain. And yeah, we both of our companies were in the hands of the state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our own company, it was a long time ago, and Rothaus Brewery, I think it's still in the hands of the state. And so we know each other. We've known each other before.
So it was kind of a bit of a connection, and then you just found out works pretty well, and so 2006. So is it 18 years of cooperation? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And 2009, the first bottle was bottled.
Oh yeah, sure. You need a bit of time for the first whiskey to come out. So,
but it started already in 2006.
15 years of releasing whiskey together. That's really good. I like it. It's a good connection.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so the last one, Banyuls. Can you pick us, so me and the viewer, up? What is Banyuls?
Banyuls is a French wine. It's a very sweet wine used for dessert. Or also aperitif. And they, during the fermentation process, they stop it with very high percent, very heavy strength alcohol. So they get the sugar from the grapes.
So it's not fully fermented wine.
Yeah, I'm not so in wine production, but I think so.
So as I remembered, I don't know from the French, I really don't know Banyuls, but from usual the sweet wine production is you have like sweet grapes, then you ferment it, and then you put in brandy, that stops the fermentation, you still have some residual sugar left, so that's why sweet wine. Don't know how that's with the with the Banyuls, so yeah, I'm excited about. Ooh, that is. I expected something now more sweet than the Chardonnay. This has it has a lot of berries and cherries and stuff in it, but also a lot of dark notes. So the last two are very different to the first two. So
yes.
the rum, you had a little bit of, it was sweet, it was fresh, but these two are. So you really put in a lot of, I guess probably a lot of money into the cask, because I do like the casks. They're really hefty.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you.
Oh. In the flavor, it has a lot more sweetness. Now, yeah, that's a sweet wine. Oh, but strong. How much percent is it?
Is it 55.9%?
Oh, okay. But I like it. It has a good balance between that sweetness that is like strawberries, sweet cherries, maybe a few grapes or something, and a good amount of oak, dark chocolate, bitter sweetness. During the first tasting, the Chardonnay was kind of my favorite. Now it's the Banyuls. Before that, I estimated that the rum cask would be my favorite. So. Oh, no, this is really good. That is nice. But now you realize it's a wine. It has a bit of a dry finish to it. Or maybe I already had eight glasses, six cask strength. So yeah, that was really nice for you to show us around in the distillery. Yeah, thanks for all the information.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was really nice. And if you like the video, then please give us a thumbs up. And if you have any friends who might be interested in the Rothaus whiskey, then please feel free to share it with these friends. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.